My name is Claire Morgan, and at 34 years old, I discovered something painful. Sometimes the people who know your name the longest are the same people who know the least about your heart. The night I lost the job I spent 12 years building my life around, I didn't expect a celebration. I didn't expect sympathy. I didn't even expect anyone to fix my problems. I only wanted one thing: to come home. But when I opened that front door, I realized something. I wasn't coming home. I was walking into a meeting where my family had already decided my future without me. My mother didn't ask if I was okay. My father didn't ask what happened. My younger brother didn't even look away from his video game. The first words my mother said were, "So, does this mean you can finally start helping your brother again?" That was the moment I understood. To them, my job was never about my dreams. My success was never something they were proud of. It was just a source they could keep draining. And the part they didn't know, the part nobody in that house knew was that 3 hours away, sitting beside the ocean, was a house with my name on the deed. A house they thought belonged to someone else. A house they would soon walk into believing they owned. Until they discovered the truth. But before I tell you how everything changed, let me take you back to the night it all started. The night my family threw me away. For most of my adult life, I was the responsible one. Every family has one. The person everyone calls when something breaks. The person everyone remembers when money is needed. The person who is expected to understand because they're strong. That was me. I grew up in a small town called Willow Creek. My father, Robert Morgan, worked as a mechanic. My mother, Linda, stayed home and managed the house. And my younger brother Jason was always the child everyone worried about. Jason was 5 years younger than me. Growing up, I never hated him. That wasn't his fault. But I noticed something early. When Jason made mistakes, people protected him. When I made mistakes, people expected me to learn from them. When Jason quit jobs, my parents said he was finding himself. When I changed careers and struggled, they told me I needed to be realistic. So I became realistic. I worked harder. I studied harder. I built a career. At 24, I started working for a luxury property management company near the coast. I spent years learning everything about homes. Not just how they looked, how they survived, how foundations worked, how old buildings could be restored instead of destroyed. Eventually, I became one of their top project managers. I handled expensive coastal properties, vacation homes, and restoration projects, but my family never really understood what I did. To them, I managed houses. That was it. They never asked questions. They only noticed the results. The vacations I paid for. The bills I helped with. The emergencies I solved. 5 years earlier, when my father had surgery, I paid the medical expenses that insurance didn't cover. When my mother's car broke down, I helped her replace it. When Jason started a business that failed after 8 months, I covered the debt because my parents begged me. It's family. My mother said. Those 2 words had become a password. Every time they wanted something, they used them. And every time, I opened the door. Until that Friday night. The day everything changed. I had just walked out of my office after my boss called me into his room. I knew something was wrong immediately. The company had lost a major investor. Projects were being canceled. Budgets were being cut. And after 12 years, my position was eliminated. "We appreciate everything you've done," my boss told me. It was the kind of sentence people say when they are ending something. I packed my things into a cardboard box. A strange thing happens when you lose a job you've had for years. People think the hardest part is losing the paycheck. It isn't. The hardest part is realizing that something you built your identity around can disappear in one afternoon. I sat in my car for almost an hour. Then, I started driving home. The house where I grew up. The house where I had spent the last year, helping my parents after my father's health problems. I thought maybe, for once, someone would ask me, "Are you okay?" I was wrong. When I parked in the driveway, I immediately noticed something strange. There were extra cars outside. My brother's truck, his girlfriend's car, and my aunt's SUV. A feeling settled in my stomach, because in my family, surprise gatherings usually meant one thing. Someone had made a decision, and I was about to hear about it last. I opened the door. The living room went quiet. My mother looked at me. Then she looked at the box in my hands. "Is it true?" she asked. I frowned. "Is what true? That you got fired? Not, what happened? Not, were you okay? Just confirmation." I placed my keys on the table. I lost my position. The company had cuts. Ooh, my brother Jason leaned back on the couch. "So you're not making that salary anymore?" I looked at him. "Hello to you too." Nobody laughed. My mother sighed. "Claire, don't make this harder than it needs to be." Those words confused me. Harder. I had just lost my career. But somehow I was the problem. What does that mean? My father walked out the hallway holding something. A box. A moving box. I stared at it. Then I looked at him. "Dad." He avoided my eyes. "Your mother and I have been talking." That sentence alone told me everything. Talking. Planning. Deciding. Without me. My mother folded her arms. "Jason and Emily are getting serious." I blinked. "Okay. They need more space." I looked at the box. Then back at her. "No." She didn't even look uncomfortable. "You heard me." My heart started beating faster. "Are you asking me to leave?" My father finally spoke. "Claire." But he didn't finish. My mother did. "You don't have the same responsibilities anymore." I almost laughed. The same responsibilities. The responsibilities I had carried for years. "You mean because I lost my job?" She looked away. "Things change." Jason suddenly became interested in the floor. My aunt stared at her hands. And then my father said the sentence I would remember forever. "We think it's time you start your own life." I stood there silently. Because sometimes a person doesn't hurt you with what they say. They hurt you with what they don't say. They didn't say, "Thank you." They didn't say, "You. We appreciate everything you've done." They didn't say, "We're sorry." They simply decided I was no longer useful. My mother pointed toward the hallway. "Your things are already packed." I looked down. My childhood bedroom. The room where I had slept for years. The room I paid to repair after the roof leaked. The room I had returned to because my father needed help. Now it was being handed to someone else. I walked into the room. My clothes were folded into boxes. My books were stacked. My old photographs were placed carefully inside a bag. They had prepared my exit before I even arrived. That hurt more than being asked to leave. Because it meant they had been thinking about my replacement. I picked up one box. My father followed me. "Claire, don't be angry." I stopped. "Don't be angry." He looked uncomfortable. "Your brother needs us." I turned around. "And what about me?" Silence. That silence answered everything. I carried my box outside. My mother called after me. "You know you'll always have family." I looked back at the house. The house I had helped save. The family I had helped carry. And I realized something. A door can be called home. But that doesn't mean you're welcome inside. I placed the box in my car. Then I reached into my purse. My fingers touched something cold. A key. A key nobody in my family knew existed. I looked back at the house one last time. They thought they were throwing me away. They thought I had nowhere to go. They had no idea. I had been building a life they were never invited into. 3 hours away. Beside the ocean. In a house they thought belonged to someone else. I started my car. And I drove toward the coast. Not knowing that within weeks, the same people who pushed me out would be standing at my front door, asking me for help. I drove for almost 3 hours that night. 3 hours of empty roads, dark skies, and thoughts I couldn't turn off. Usually, when people lose something important, they call someone. A friend, a family member, someone who says, "Come over. We'll figure this out." But I didn't call anyone, because the painful truth was, The people I would have called were the same people who had just closed the door on me. By midnight, the highway lights disappeared, and the smell of the ocean filled the air. I turned onto a small road surrounded by dunes and old trees. At the end of that road was a house. A small, white beach house with blue shutters. Nothing huge. Nothing luxurious. But it was mine. I parked outside and sat there for a moment. A year earlier, I never thought I would own a place like this. Especially not by myself. Especially not without telling my family. But sometimes the things you keep secret aren't because you're ashamed. Sometimes they're because you know people will try to take them from you before you've even enjoyed them. I walked to the front door and unlocked it. The sound of that key turning meant more to me than any paycheck I had ever received. Because this house wasn't a gift. Nobody handed it to me. Nobody rescued me. I built my way toward it. 2 years earlier, while working on coastal restoration projects, I discovered this abandoned property. The previous owner had passed away, and the house had been sitting empty for years. Most people saw a damaged old building. The roof needed repairs. The floors were ruined. The paint was peeling. The ocean air had destroyed parts of the exterior. But I didn't see a broken house. I saw potential. Because that was what I did. I rebuilt things. Homes. Businesses. Old properties everyone else gave up on, so I used my savings and bought it. Not because I wanted a vacation house. Because I wanted something nobody could take away from me. A place where I wasn't the daughter. I wasn't the sister. I wasn't the person everyone called when they needed money. I was just Claire. The first person who knew about the house was my best friend, Olivia. She helped me restore it little by little. Every weekend, I drove to the coast. Every weekend, I repaired something. A broken window. A damaged wall. A leaking pipe. I didn't tell my parents. Not because I didn't love them, but because I knew exactly what would happen. My mother would say, "That's wonderful, Claire. Maybe you can let Jason stay there for a while." My brother would say, "You don't even use it all the time." And somehow my dream would become another family responsibility. So I kept quiet. For the first time in my life, I chose myself. That night, sitting alone in my beach house, I made a decision. I wasn't going back. Not because I hated my family. Because I finally understood something. You can love people and still stop letting them hurt you. The next morning, I woke up early. I made coffee. I opened the windows. And for the first time in months, I felt peaceful. Then my phone started ringing. My mother. I stared at the screen. I knew exactly why she was calling. Not because she missed me. Because something had changed. I answered. "Hello." There was no greeting. No apology. No question about where I was. Instead, she said, "Claire, we need to talk." I looked out at the ocean. What happened? A pause. Then, "Your brother's situation is complicated, of course, Jason." The emergency always had a name. What situation? My mother lowered her voice. "His business isn't doing well." I closed my eyes. Here we go. He needs some help until things improve. I almost smiled. The funny thing about people who depend on you. They never say they depend on you. They say they just need a little help. A little help becomes a payment. A payment becomes a responsibility. A responsibility becomes your entire life. "Mom," I said calmly, "I don't have a job right now." She became quiet. Then she said, "Exactly." That word hurt. Exactly. Like my struggles were just an inconvenience. Exactly what? "You have time now?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You mean because I lost my career, I have time to solve Jason's problems?" "Don't make it sound like that." "But that's what you're saying." She sighed. "You've always been so dramatic." That sentence. That one sentence. It made something inside me go completely still. Because for years, whenever I was hurt, they called me dramatic. Whenever I needed something, they called me difficult. Whenever I said no, they called me selfish. But whenever they needed me, I was the good daughter again. "Mom," I said quietly, "I'm not paying for Jason anymore." The silence on the phone was immediate. What? You heard me. But he's your brother. And I'm your daughter. Another silence. A longer one. Then her voice changed, cold. You've changed. I looked around my house. At the walls I repaired. At the ocean outside. At the life I built. Yes, I said. I have. She hung up. I thought that would be the end. It wasn't. 2 days later, my father called. That surprised me. My father almost never called without my mother beside him. Claire? Hi, Dad. There was a long pause. I think your mother is upset. I almost laughed. She usually is when someone tells her no. He ignored that. Your brother is struggling. I know. Family helps each other. I looked at the waves outside. I did help. You know what I mean. Yes. I did know. He meant I should continue helping. Forever. Dad, do you know what happened that night? What night? When you packed my things. Silence. I didn't want it to happen like that. But you let it happen. He didn't answer. And that was the answer. Because sometimes silence is an admission. I had nowhere else to go, I said. You knew that. My father's voice became softer. Claire. No, Dad. I stopped him. For years, everyone knew I would survive. And because of that, nobody cared if I was hurting. He had nothing to say. I ended the call. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. My old company called. The same company that had laid me off. They wanted to meet. Apparently, one of the biggest clients had requested me specifically. The project wasn't dead. The company had changed direction. And they wanted me back. But this time, they wanted me as a partner, not an employee. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same week my family decided I had nothing. The world reminded me I had built something. I accepted. But I made one condition. I wanted independence. I wanted control. I spent years building houses for other people. Now I was building my own future. A few weeks passed. Life started becoming normal again. Then one evening, Olivia came over holding her phone. Claire. Something about her voice made me look up. What? She showed me the screen. It was a social media post. My mother's page. A picture of my parents, Jason, and his girlfriend. The caption said, "Starting a new chapter. Looking forward to brighter days." I frowned. What's wrong? Olivia zoomed in. Behind them was my beach house. My stomach dropped. What is that? They're at your house? I grabbed the phone. The picture was recent. Very recent. Then I saw the message underneath. My mother's comment. Can't wait for everyone to see the beautiful family home we found by the ocean. Family home. I stared at those words. Because suddenly, I understood. They weren't just visiting. They were planning something. I opened my email. There was a notification waiting. A rental inquiry. For my beach house. The person requesting the booking. Linda Morgan. My mother. I sat there silently. Olivia looked at me. Your own mother is trying to rent your house. I didn't answer. Because I was trying to understand something. How could someone know so little about you, and still believe they had the right to everything you built? Then another thought came. A dangerous thought. For years, my family had told the world their version of me. The unreliable daughter. The difficult one. The selfish one. Maybe it was time they heard my version. Not through anger. Not through revenge. Through the truth. I accepted the booking. But I didn't tell my mother who owned the house. I wanted her to walk through that door believing she was in control. I wanted her to stand inside the house she thought belonged to someone else. And then, I wanted her to learn the truth. The week before my family arrived at the beach house, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Calm. Not because everything was perfect. It wasn't. I still carried the pain of that night. The cardboard boxes. My father's silence. My mother's cold words. The way they looked at me like losing my job meant losing my value. But something had changed. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to prove I mattered. I already knew I did. I spent that week preparing the house. Not for revenge. For closure. There is a difference. Revenge is about hurting someone. Closure is about finally standing in your own truth. I cleaned the porch. I planted new flowers near the walkway. I repaired the old wooden sign hanging beside the entrance. Years ago, the previous owner had carved a small message into the wood. Every home remembers who loved it. I kept those words. Because they were true. A house isn't made special because of its walls. It's made special because of the memories inside it. And soon, my family was going to step into a place they never imagined I owned. The morning of their arrival, my mother called. Her voice sounded excited. Almost proud. "Claire, we're almost there." I smiled slightly. "Great. We can't believe how beautiful this place is." I looked around my living room. The handmade furniture, the ocean view, the photographs from the restoration. "Yeah," I said. "It is beautiful." She laughed. "You know, I always thought you were too focused on work. Maybe you should have bought something like this years ago." I almost laughed. She still didn't know. Even now. After everything, she had no idea. "Maybe," I said. "We'll talk when you get here." She didn't notice my tone. She was too busy talking about the party. Because that was what my mother loved. Appearances. She wanted people to see the perfect family. The successful mother. The hardworking parents. The son who was finally getting his life together. And the daughter who was somehow always expected to stand behind them. But today was different. Today I wasn't standing behind anyone, I was standing at my own door. Around 3 p.m., cars started arriving. My brother Jason stepped out first. He looked around. Wow. His girlfriend Emily followed. "This place is incredible." My mother came last. She stepped out wearing a dress she probably saved for special occasions. She looked at the house. Then she smiled. I knew this was the perfect place. I walked toward them. "Welcome." My mother hugged me quickly, not warmly, just enough for anyone watching to think everything was fine. "You did a good job arranging this?" I looked at her. "I did." She nodded. "Yes." Finding this place wasn't easy. I didn't correct her. "Not yet." My father stood quietly behind her. He looked older, more tired. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Then I remembered him standing in my bedroom, holding that box, saying nothing. I pushed the thought away. Because today wasn't about anger. It was about truth. The guests started arriving. Family members, old friends, people from my parents' church. Everyone admired the house. My mother loved every second. She walked around telling people, "I found this little treasure by the ocean." I wanted everyone to have a beautiful place to gather. I knew my family deserved something special. Every sentence was another piece of a story that wasn't hers. And everyone believed her. Until I decided it was time. Dinner was served as the sun started setting. Everyone gathered outside on the porch, the ocean behind us. The lights glowing above. It was actually beautiful. And for a moment, I wondered if I should let it go. Maybe I could just tell my mother privately. Maybe I could avoid another family explosion. Then I remembered something. They didn't remove me privately. They packed my things in front of people. They didn't care about protecting my feelings. So I wasn't going to hide the truth to protect their image. I stood up. Everyone looked at me. My mother smiled. "What are you doing?" I held a small folder in my hand. I wanted to say something. She laughed. "Of course. Go ahead." She thought I was going to thank her. That was the strange thing about people who always take. They expect gratitude from the people they hurt. I looked around. I know everyone has heard about this house. People nodded. My mother has told everyone how she found it. My mother smiled. Yes, I looked at her. But there's something she doesn't know. Her smile faded slightly. This house wasn't rented. The porch became quiet. My mother frowned. What? I continued. This house belongs to me. Nobody moved. My brother laughed nervously. Okay, Claire? Very funny. I didn't laugh. I'm serious. I opened the folder. Inside was the deed, the ownership documents, the proof. I handed it to my father first. He looked down. His expression changed. Then he looked at my mother, Linda. She grabbed the papers. Her eyes moved across the page. Then she froze. No. I said nothing. No, this can't be? It is. You bought this 2 years ago. Her face changed. The confidence disappeared. The performance disappeared. Only confusion remained. But why didn't you tell us? I looked at her. And that question said everything. Not, how did you do it? Not, why didn't we know you had achieved this? Only, why didn't you tell us? Because she believed she had a right to know. I didn't tell you because I knew what would happen. She stared. What does that mean? It means the moment you knew I owned something valuable, it wouldn't be mine anymore. The silence was heavy. My brother looked uncomfortable. My mother shook her head. That's not fair. I almost smiled. Fair. That word sounded strange coming from her. Fair was losing my job and coming home to find my things packed. Fair was paying bills for years and being treated like I was only useful when I had money. Fair was being called selfish the first time I said no. My mother's eyes filled with anger. You are blaming us. No, I looked around. I'm finally seeing us clearly. My father lowered his head. Because he knew. He knew every word was true. Then my mother said the sentence I expected. But we are family. I nodded. Yes. I stepped closer. And family should love you before they need you. Nobody spoke. The ocean waves were the only sound. My mother looked away. For once, she didn't have an answer. Then Jason spoke. So what now? Everyone looked at him. He shrugged. You just wanted to embarrass us. I looked at my brother, and for the first time, I saw him differently. Not as a child. Not as someone who needed saving. As an adult who had benefited from my silence. No. Jason. I wanted you to understand something. What? I was never your safety net. You just got comfortable knowing I was there. He didn't respond. Because he knew. A few minutes later, people started leaving. Not dramatically. Not with shouting. Just quietly. Because sometimes the biggest moments aren't loud. Sometimes people simply realize the truth and don't know what to say. My father stayed behind. He stood on the porch beside me. I should have stopped it. I looked at him. Yes. He nodded. I know. For years, I wanted my father to defend me. That night, he finally admitted he failed. It didn't erase the pain. But it mattered. My mother left without saying goodbye. And honestly, that was okay. Some doors don't need to be slammed. Sometimes you just stop standing there holding them open. Months passed. The legal problems with my family became their responsibility. The debts they created. The choices they made. The consequences they avoided. For the first time, they had to solve their own problems. And I had to learn something too. Helping people doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. Being kind doesn't mean being available forever. And loving your family doesn't mean allowing them to destroy you. My career came back stronger than before. I eventually started my own coastal restoration company. The same skills people once ignored became the reason I succeeded. And the beach house. It became my favorite place in the world. Not because it was expensive. Not because it impressed people. Because it represented something. A life I built when nobody was watching. A dream I protected when nobody believed in me. A home nobody could take away. Sometimes people think the best revenge is making someone regret hurting you. I disagree. The best revenge is becoming someone they can no longer control. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was simply living. And that was the one thing my family never expected. They thought losing my job meant losing my power. They didn't realize. My job was never my power. I was. If you ever find yourself being the person everyone depends on, but nobody appreciates, remember this: your kindness is a gift. Not a debt. Your heart is valuable. But so are your boundaries. Don't let anyone convince you that protecting yourself makes you selfish. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is finally choose yourself. Thank you for listening to my story. If this story touched you, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you've ever had to walk away from people who only loved what you provided, remember, you are not losing a family. You are finding yourself.